how it is with resolutions. You start out with extremely high standards, and then as the months go by, your standards slowly drop down. You start out January the 1st saying, I resolve to lose 20 pounds this year. By March, that becomes, I will lose 10 pounds this year. And by May, if you're lucky, if you're saying, I will try not to gain more than 20 pounds this year. And I know for the young people, they all resolve to do 3 hours of homework every single night. Although in a little bit, it will be, I will do 1 hour of homework each night. And by about May, they'll be lucky if they can find their textbooks. Or maybe that was just me, I don't know. If you were to say to the planet Earth, how do you feel about the past decade, oh planet Earth? And what resolutions do you have to make for the next decade? I wonder how the planet Earth would respond. Or rather, how would humankind respond to that? And if you look back over this last decade, you will see that it was a tough decade for the planet, a tough decade for humankind. With respect to politics, perhaps the event which began the decade on a very difficult note was the United Nations resolution to step up the international inspection of weapons within Iraq. And Iraq's very quick denial of that request, which eventually led to the declaration of war against Iraq in the year 2003, a war intended allegedly to suppress those states which supported terrorism. Moving on within that difficult decade, in the year 2001, in the month of October, the United States declared war on terrorism, which involved the beginning of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, again with the intent of suppressing terrorism. It's hard to think that that war is now coming up close to its 10th birthday. And we continue to struggle, and our hearts continue to be broken by the deaths caused in that conflict. Beyond the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have witnessed tearfully the wars in Somalia, the Sudan, Palestine, Israel, perhaps culminating with the February 2009 Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip, within which 1,400 people have died. If the planet were to look back on the decade and look for those watchwords which define the politics of the era, they would come up with words which chill us to the bone. Terrorism, suicide bomber, homeland security, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, or two little words that still cause us to weep, 9/11. Not a great decade in the world of politics. And in the world of nature, also a decade of devastation and hurt. Hurricane Katrina in the year 2005, within which over 1,800 people were killed and at least 80,000 left homeless. The tsunami of 2006, wherein nearly 250,000 people died. The earthquake in Kashmir in 2005, within which 75,000 people died. The earthquake in China in the same year, where 68,000 people died. It has been a decade of famine, flood, disaster, disease, and of course, taking a greater toll than all of those obvious and newsworthy tragedies is the fact that throughout that whole decade, every single day, between 25,000 and 30,000 children died of hunger. A painful decade for humankind and for the planet. With respect to ecology and the environment. We have faced global warming. We have had knowledge of it for 10 years, but in the last few months, after a decade of wrangling, we have shown almost no will to put the environment and its human cost ahead of business, manufacturing, and profit. With respect to the economy, it has been the decade of white-collar crime, within which persons, including but not limited to Conrad Black and Bernie Madoff, have destroyed the livelihood of tens of thousands of hard-working people. A decade within which banks took the strategy of loaning money out to people to buy houses, even though they knew that those people would never be able to pay those loans back. It was the subprime scandal. It was always the full intention of the banks to loan that money and then to foreclose on those homes to get their money back and earn a profit in the process.